Well, 5 minutes before one of my clients' scheduled Zoom appointments, she emailed me to cancel. She hadn't forgotten about the appointment. She wasn't running late. She simply couldn't keep her eyes open long enough to concentrate on her call. And the brain fog that she was having was so intense that she knew she wouldn't be able to think clearly during the conversation. So this client had recently had her annual blood work done, and her doctor had told her that everything looked normal. But she knew something wasn't right. So if you've ever wondered, how can my blood test be normal when I feel this exhausted? I want you to understand something important. Normal test results can be very reassuring, but they don't necessarily tell us why someone's experiencing persistent fatigue. And maybe you've experienced something similar to this. You've had your blood work done. You've been told, or you even went into the portal and looked at it yourself, and you didn't see anything marked as abnormal. And your doctor's follow-up call says, everything's good, see you next year. But you know something's wrong because you don't feel good. I'm Margaret Setterlof, and I have spent more than 40 years working in healthcare as a physical therapist. And now my work combines my clinical background with advanced training in functional medicine and in nutrition and in laboratory interpretation. I work primarily with women in midlife who know that something has changed over the years, but they can't pinpoint what it is, and everything that they're doing that they used to do to take care of their health isn't working anymore. So that's what I can help women connect those dots into what is different now than what used to be. So, one of the most common things that I hear is, my labs were normal, so why do I still feel so awful? I want you to imagine, and maybe this is you, that you just had your traditional annual blood work done, your lab work. You go to your doctor, he or she writes the prescription, you take it, you'll get your lab work done, and it comes back. Typically, there's three things on there. There's a CBC, a CMP, and a TSH. You don't have to know all the technical words, just know that those are the standard panels that get measured on an annual basis. Let's say they all come back within their natural or their normal reference ranges. That, again, that's useful information, but it doesn't automatically mean that we've evaluated every reasonable contributing factor to your fatigue. So just because it's normal doesn't mean that it's meaningless, but normal doesn't necessarily mean we've answered your question. For example, I had a client recently who told me that she'd had her TSA, or she'd had her thyroid labs done, and that everything was normal. And she said that she didn't think that she had a thyroid problem because of that. So when we looked at it, at her results, I realized that the only test that she'd had done to measure her thyroid was the TSH. That doesn't mean that the TSH measurement was wrong or the result was wrong. It simply tells me exactly what information we already have. And that helps me decide what questions may still need to be appropriate in order to get her to where she wants to be. So that's why I don't begin by asking, what's the fatigue test that we use to check fatigue? I begin by asking, what's this woman's fatigue telling us, and what information do we already have? So, depending on the individual, we may need to consider things like sleep, like iron status, thyroid function, B vitamins, metabolic health, medications, nutrition, digestive health. What's the stress load that she's going through, and any other medical conditions that she may have. So, we need to understand your particular story before deciding what information we need. So, what I would like for you to do is, if you've got it handy, I want you to go get your annual lab report or look it up online and just take a look at what you have. Doesn't mean you have to understand everything about it, but there are a couple things I want you to look at. I don't want you to get the patient portal message that says everything looks good. I want you to pull up the actual report, something that looks like this. It'll either be from LabCorp, from Quest, any of your typical lab companies, and you'll see a whole line of different things that were looked at. What I want you to look at on yours is what tests were actually performed. Once you know what was actually tested, the next question becomes, what blood tests are commonly considered when someone is experiencing persistent fatigue? And that's exactly what I'm going to be covering in the next video. I'm going to walk you through 5 blood tests to ask for if you feel tired all the time. I'm going to tell you what each one of them can tell us and why simply ordering more tests isn't really the answer. So click the next video and I'll walk you through them.